Second Kings, Lesson 4. Elisha helps Naaman.
Our lesson today is found in 2 Kings 5, 1 through 14. We will learn more about Elisha, God's faithful prophet. We will hear about a little girl that had great faith in God. We will meet a captain in the Syrian army that had to swallow his pride in order to be healed of a terrible disease. But first, let's listen as Jill talks to her teacher about her friend Bitsy.
Hi, teacher. Bitsy won't be here today. She has a contagious disease.
Oh, my. I'm sorry to hear that, Jill. What does Bitsy have?
She has a cold.
Well, colds are contagious, aren't they?
When you sneeze, your germs and snot can travel up 5 bazillion miles per hour.
That does sound dangerous, but I'm not sure that bazillion is a real unit of measure.
When you cough, your germs and saliva can reach the top of Mount Rushmore.
That's another interesting statistic I'm not sure I believe.
So, you should stay home if you have a cold.
I think that's sound advice.
At least colds aren't usually life-threatening.
In our lesson today, we're going to hear about a man that had a disease that made people really afraid.
Was it worse than a cold?
Yes, for sure it was. He had leprosy.
Oh, I've heard of that. I don't think it's around anymore.
It isn't very common in our modern world.
How long did it take for the man to die of leprosy?
Well, the story has a really happy ending.
Oh, I love happy endings.
Well, then you will love this one.
In the country to the north of Israel lived the Syrians. They had never been taught about the true God, so they worshipped an idol called Rimmon. In their cities they built temples for Rimmon. While Elisha was the prophet in Israel, the Syrians sometimes attacked the cities of Israel. The invaders took from these cities anything they wanted. Sometimes they even took people and children and sold them as slaves. In one raid of an Israelite city, a little girl was captured. She was taken, along with others, to Syria and sold as a slave. Naaman, a rich captain of the Syrian army, saw the little girl and bought her to serve in his house. The little girl was treated kindly, and she learned how to please her owners. After a while, she began to like her new home, and before long, she began to think of Naaman and his wife as her family. We do not know what happened to her real family. One day, Naaman discovered that he had a serious skin disease. It was one of the most dreaded diseases in the entire land and was called leprosy. When people contracted leprosy, it meant they would be separated from their families for the rest of their lives and forced to live outside the city with other lepers in what was called a leper colony. At first Naaman did not have any pain, but he knew that he would eventually suffer greatly. Even his fingers and toes would drop off, and perhaps he would lose other parts of his body. Eventually he would die from this dreaded disease. The king of Syria was sorry that this brave captain of his army had leprosy. Naaman had led the Syrians to victory many times. The king thought so much of Naaman that he chose the brave captain to go along with him to the temple of Rimmon when he went there to worship the idol. The little slave girl was very sad when she found out her master had this terrible disease. She wished there was something she could do to help Naaman. Then she remembered. There was a man in Israel who healed people of terrible diseases. He had even brought dead people back to life. He was the prophet Elisha, and he lived in Israel, in the city of Samaria. The little slave girl told Naaman's wife, "If my master would go to see God's prophet in Samaria, he would cure him of his skin disease." Naaman's wife was interested at once. She hurried to tell her husband what the little girl had said. When Naaman heard the news, he was very excited to learn that his disease could be cured. Naaman ran to tell the king. The king was happy to hear the news. He did not want to lose his trusted army captain. "Go to Samaria," the king said. "I will write a letter to the king of Israel, asking him to cure you of this disease." The king of Syria knew nothing about the one true God. He thought surely the king of Israel must be the most powerful person in that country. Surely the king of Israel was the one who would be able to cure Naaman of his leprosy. To repay the king of Israel for his favor, he sent 150 pounds of gold and 750 pounds of silver and 10 sets of beautiful clothing. The servants loaded all of the expensive gifts onto their horses, and with Naaman leading the way, they started off for Samaria. After several days of travel, Naaman's horses and chariots stopped before the great palace in Samaria. Naaman pulled out the letter that had been sent by the king of Syria. 2 Kings 5:6 says this: "Then he brought the letter to the king of Israel, which said, 'Now be advised when this letter comes to you that I have sent Naaman, my servant, to you, that you may heal him of his leprosy.'" When the king of Israel read the letter, he was very upset and tore his clothes. He obviously did not have the power to heal Naaman's leprosy. He had no relationship with the prophet of God who did have the power to heal. He thought the king of Syria was trying to start a quarrel. The king of Israel did not know what to do. If he had loved and served the true God instead of idols, he would have been on speaking terms with God's prophet, Elisha. Soon the news of the king tearing his clothes reached Elisha. Elisha sent a message to the king. "Why have you torn your clothes? Have the man come to me, and he will know that there is a prophet in Israel." The king was relieved to get Elisha's message. Quickly he sent Naaman and his servants to Elisha's house. When Naaman and his servants came, Elisha did not go out to meet them. Instead, he sent a servant out to talk to Naaman. The servant told Naaman, "My master Elisha says, 'Go and wash in the Jordan River 7 times. Then your skin will become new, and the leprosy will be gone.'" Naaman felt insulted, and he got very angry. Not only had Elisha refused to come out and greet him personally, but he had told Naaman to go and bathe in the muddy Jordan River. Angrily, Naaman replied, "I thought surely the prophet would come out and call upon the name of God and wave his hand over the spot on my skin and cure my skin disease. I am not going to get into that muddy Jordan River. Aren't there rivers of Damascus better than the waters in Israel? Couldn't I wash in them and be clean?" So he turned and got back into his chariot in a rage. Naaman ordered his driver to return to Syria, but his servant stopped him. "My master, if the prophet had told you to do some great thing, would you not have done it? How much more should you do it when he tells you, 'Wash and be clean'?" Naaman realized that his servant had spoken wisely. He ordered his driver to turn toward the Jordan River. When they reached the Jordan, Naaman got down into the muddy water. He dipped his body 1 time. Still the spots of leprosy were there. 2 times. But he could see no change. 3, 4, 5, 6 times he dipped, and still nothing happened. When he came out of the water the 7th time, he could not find a single trace of the disease anywhere on his body. As a matter of fact, his skin had become smooth and new, like the skin of a young boy. How happy Naaman was! He must go to the prophet at once and tell him what happened. "I know there is no God in the whole world except in Israel," Naaman exclaimed. "Please accept a gift from your servant." But Elisha said, "As the Lord lives, I cannot accept the gift." Naaman urged him to accept the gift, but he refused. Elisha wanted Naaman to know that God's gifts cannot be bought with money. Then Naaman asked, "Please let me take back some earth from the land of Israel. I will make an altar and worship the true God, for I can no longer offer a burnt offering or a sacrifice to any other god but the Lord." Naaman thought God would not be pleased with an altar that was built from the soil of a heathen country. No longer did the Syrian captain want to worship idols. He knew now that idols could not see, or hear, or help in times of need. Elisha replied,
Go in peace.
Naaman loaded his animals with as much soil as they could carry and started back to Syria, praising the one true God of Israel. Naaman and the king of Syria did not know anything about the true God. This young girl was an outstanding example of a faithful witness. She cared enough to speak up, and she had faith enough to believe that God could use Elisha to heal this man of leprosy. There are many people in our world who do not know anything about God. You can tell them about God, how He is the creator of the world, how He sent Jesus to die on the cross for our sin. Many people in our modern world are just as ignorant about God as Naaman was in this true story from long, long ago. They need to hear the good news also.